All right, let's talk about something we all kind of assume is true, that a bigger paycheck is the golden ticket to financial stability. But in this explainer, we're going to dig into why that's often not the case and uncover the sneaky, invisible habits that might be holding you back, even when you're earning good money.
Okay, so let's get right into it, because this is a paradox that drives so many people crazy. You get that promotion, that pay raise, you feel like you've finally made it. But then a year goes by and you're somehow in the exact same spot, just with nicer things. So what on earth is going on here?
Well, it turns out the real culprit often isn't the number on your paycheck. It's a series of small, repeated behavioral mistakes. These are the quiet little decisions we make every day that can completely undermine all our hard work, and we don't even realize it's happening. So, first, we've got to talk about something called the income illusion. This is that classic trap where it feels like we're getting ahead financially, but in reality, we're just running in place on a much faster, much more expensive treadmill. And here it is, the number one reason for that feeling: lifestyle inflation. It's so simple, yet so powerful. As your income goes up, your spending just magically seems to rise right along with it. A nicer car, a bigger apartment, more takeout. Your expenses just expand to fill whatever new income you have. So instead of freedom, that raise just ends up bringing more financial pressure. Okay, now let's move on and look at some cracks in the foundation itself. I'm talking about the critical mistakes people make right at the beginning, the kind of errors that weaken your entire financial house before you've even finished building it.
I mean, think about it like this. Jumping straight into investing without an emergency fund, that's like heading out on a cross-country road trip without a spare tire. It's all great until you hit one little bump in the road, a surprise medical bill, a car repair, and suddenly your whole journey is derailed and you're right back in debt.
So the whole point here is that the order you do things in is absolutely crucial. Trying to build this big, impressive tower of wealth without these basic protections, well, it's like building a skyscraper on sand. Sure, it might look good for a little while, but eventually it is going to crumble. All right, next up is what I like to call the self-sabotage cycle. This is all about those daily habits that are constantly, quietly chipping away at your financial structure. This is where the real battle is won or lost, not in some big dramatic market crash, but in the tiny choices you make every single day. And this, right here, this is a really big deal. It's the battle between motivation and systems. You see, trying to rely on sheer motivation to save money is a recipe for disaster. Why? Because motivation is an emotion. It comes and goes. Systems, on the other hand, systems are persistent. They just keep working, even on the days you don't feel like it. And that, right there, is why automating your finances is such a game changer. You set up that automatic transfer to your savings account for the day you get paid, and boom, it just happens. It doesn't matter if you're feeling disciplined or if you'd rather spend the money. Without systems like that, it is just way too easy to fall behind, no matter how good your intentions are. Okay, so we've covered the foundation and the daily habits. But what about the long game? Let's talk about the mistakes that can stop you from ever actually finishing your financial house. The big picture errors that end up sabotaging your future self. Just look at this chart. It perfectly illustrates the insane cost of procrastination. Delaying your saving and investing, even by just a few years, absolutely guts the power of compounding. Time is, without a doubt, your single greatest asset when it comes to money. Waiting is one of the most expensive mistakes you can ever make. And, of course, there's the other big trap in the long game: chasing shortcuts. This is what happens when we trade patient, disciplined investing for things like wild speculation or whatever investment is trending this week. These get-rich-quick schemes, they promise you the world, but more often than not, they end up erasing years of slow, steady progress in the blink of an eye.
You know, this quote right here, it really just says it all, doesn't it? It is almost never the one-time huge catastrophe that sinks a financial plan. It's usually the slow, steady leak from all those little things: the daily overspending, the procrastination, the bad habits. Those small decisions, they compound negatively over time. Whew, okay, so we've gone through all the problems, all the architectural flaws, all the ways things can go wrong. So what do we actually do about it? How do we build a financial structure that can actually stand up to life's storms?
Look, building a solid financial life isn't some big secret. It really comes down to a pretty simple blueprint. It starts with awareness, just recognizing your own habits. Then comes discipline, making conscious choices. Then you build systems to automate those good choices. And finally, you maintain that long-term view to keep your eyes on the prize.
And I think this is the most important thing to remember through all of this. It's not about being perfect. You don't have to avoid every single mistake. The real goal is just to stop making the big, repeated ones we've been talking about. If you can just address those common traps, the lifestyle inflation, the weak foundation, the lack of systems, financial freedom suddenly becomes a much, much more achievable goal.
And that really brings us to the final question, the one I want to leave you with. Real, lasting financial progress, it doesn't start with some miracle stock pick or a lottery win. It starts with one small, intentional repair to your own financial architecture. So think about it. What's the one crack in your foundation you can fix